3D Stitch Acrylic Nail Art Tutorial by Hotpinkzebrapolish. Hi everybody, in today's video I have a really cute little stitch design and I have a Lilo that goes with him, and I have uploaded that yesterday, so I have a link for that one in the description box below, so if you missed it, check that out. I also have a different Stitch video that from about a year ago, so if you are a Stitch fan, definitely look at that one as well. And don't forget to click subscribe to see all my future videos as well. I'm going to begin with an overlay of a light coral color in the background, and like I mentioned in my Lilo nail, that I made it so that each nail was complementary to the character that goes with them. So for the Lilo nail, I did light blue in the background to make it go with Stitch, and for this Stitch nail, I'm doing a light coral background so it goes with Lilo and the dress color that she has. So now I'm going to be encasing the nail with a layer of clear acrylic to make sure that it is nice and strong and to protect that background color. And that is especially important if you're using some glitter acrylic, but it also is, I think, an important step if you're using a color acrylic that isn't necessarily meant for doing overlays with entirely. So now I'm going to be filing the nail into shape with my e-file. I started out with a coarse bit to remove any bulk, and I'm going to go over it again with a finer bit just to basically buff it so that it's easier to work on top of. So now, after I've got that done, I'm going to begin sculpting my stitch with a medium blue acrylic. And instead of going through like I did with Lilo and doing the different colors of everything with different colors, on Stitch I pretty much used this same color of blue and did all of the different details on him with acrylic paint later. And the reason I did it this way is because I didn't have the colors that I thought were appropriate in acrylic for him, for the different, like his lighter colors that is on his tummy and everything. And I decided that it would just be easier to go through and do that with paint instead. Of course, if you have all the perfect colors of color acrylic, obviously go ahead and use them, put those colors to use. But if you don't, in any design, keep in mind that you can always paint over acrylic and it looks just as well as if you used color acrylic instead. So those are little options that are always something to keep in mind. And I'm going to take the tip of my brush and sort of press in for where his eye area is to create a little indent, which will make the painting easier later. I'm going to take a little bit of that blue color and add a couple little strands of fur going up from the top of his head, and then add his two ears, one on each side of his head, going straight up, just like that. So there's the first one. Kind of add a little indent on the one side, a little mishap in his ear. And then add the other one on the other side, kind of pull it down, just like so. Create another little indent in it. And then after you have all of those and you're happy with them, keep adding details until you are happy with the color, but you are going to also want to add a little bit in the same color. I'm using the same color of blue for his nose. And that's one that after I got done with it, I was looking at it and I'm like, well, that was kind of silly because I do have the right color of blue acrylic for his nose. I should have just used it instead of having to paint it later. But I use the same color because that's what was sitting next to me, and add his nose. Then I'm taking some lighter blue acrylic paint and I'm going to be painting all of his details. So I'm starting out with the light blue patches, and that's going to be around his eye area in the beginning here. And after I have those done, I'm going to be adding his little light blue area on his stomach, the little lines coming down, and then fill in the middle. And then I'm going to be adding his mouth. So do his mouth with a darker shade of red, kind of a maroon or a berry color. Works really, really well, and that stretches pretty much from one side of his face to the other. Really nice, big, open smile. It's so amazing when I'm looking at these designs, and it's sometimes hard to envision how they're going to be at the end, especially when you're first creating them, and it's definitely a practice, something you have to practice to get to where you can break down shapes and figure out how to build them back up. But once you kind of get that down and then you start adding all of these details later, it's so much fun to watch all these characters come to life for me. It's my favorite part, doing all these final little touches that bring them from a blue blob into a character that just about everybody could recognize. So after I have that, I put some darker blue over his nose. I'm going to add some light pink in his ears. When you're doing that light pink in the ears, make sure you don't cover up the very edges of the blue. You do want those to still show. So just add right in the center of the ears the lighter color pink. Then use kind of a red color for his tongue. I'm going to take some black and start doing some other outlines. I did dilute my black actually quite a bit for this guy on my thumb. So my favorite way of diluting paint is that I take the tip of my brush and I dip it into paint so I get more than I need for that particular area, and then I dip the whole thing, brush and paint the whole bit, into water, and then I mix it on my thumb. And I have people ask me, why don't I use a palette and all this? And you know, they make things that it's easier. And my response is, it's easier to wash paint off of myself because I'm going to wash my hands when I'm done anyway than to have to clean something else. So I'm already going to clean my hands. I might as well just use my hands as a palette, especially with something that is non-toxic like acrylic paint. I definitely wouldn't use my thumb as a palette if I were to be using gel polish or acrylic monomer and polymer system. But if it's acrylic paint, it's not toxic, so it doesn't matter if it's on your skin for a little while. So keep adding all of the details to Mr. Stitch. Add his eyes now with black paint. And for doing his eyes and that kind of thing, you don't have to worry about diluting the paint because it can be a little thicker and it's just fine to use it. But it's those skinny little outlines that a slightly thinner texture paint is going to just apply so much easier. After I've got his little eyes done, I'm going to be taking some white and I'm going to be adding his little teeth in his mouth. So just basically little dots for his teeth. There's the first two, the upper teeth, and then add a couple in between, and then add his lower teeth, a little white highlight in each eye, and then apply some gel sealer over the background to make it nice and shiny. And I always put shiny in the background and matte top coat over my characters because it makes it so that the details of the characters are more visible, but the shininess also makes the nail a little bit more glamorous, and that's the technique and the style that I prefer, but you can switch up how that goes however you like. So I hope you guys like this design as much as I do. I think they are absolutely adorable. Please share any recreations with me on Facebook or Instagram. I would love to see them, and if you missed the Lilo tutorial, I will put a link to that in the description box below, and I'll see you next time. Bye!